Welcome to Morning Message for January the 26th. I was thinking this week about the week of prayer for Christian unity, and we didn't do very much about that in Charlottetown this year because of COVID-19. But I was thinking about one of the jokes that goes along with the week of prayer for Christian unity. It's a way to try and get people on your side if you happen to be one of the speakers. The speaker would normally acknowledge that we are a variety of churches, a variety of denominations, each with their own special characteristics. But in heaven, we'll all be united. That joke always gets the folks from the United Church smiling and very pleased with the joke. And it usually gets a good laugh from everybody else as well. I've used that joke in the past to try to get United Church congregations to warm up to me in whatever circumstances we happen to be in. There's another less charitable joke about an angel showing some new arrivals around heaven, and in this room there's a bunch of people sitting neatly in a row, and they're the Anglicans. Another room where everyone's banging tambourines, and they're the Baptists or something. And eventually you get to a room, and the angel tells the new arrivals to be very quiet as they go past this room. And the reason is because that room is filled with Roman Catholics, and the Roman Catholics think they're the only ones here. There are jokes, of course, that make fun of Anglicans. There's the great theological question about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. There's probably no answer to that question. So then the question becomes, how many Baptists can dance on the head of a pin? Well, Baptists don't dance. How many Anglicans can dance on the head of a pin? Anglicans can't dance, is the response to that question. And of course there's the classic, how many Anglicans does it take to change a light bulb? Change? My grandfather donated that light bulb. The joke about us all being in heaven and we're united there, I think that speaks to an expectation we probably have of heaven, that the kinds of divisions and separations that we experience here on earth don't exist in heaven, that in some sense we all are united there. And if that's the case, it's a logical step to think that, well, here on earth, that ought to be a logical goal. We should try to create that heavenly sense of unity amongst the churches here on earth. And of course, the prayer that Jesus prays in Gethsemane just before he is arrested, prays for the unity of his followers. And clearly we don't mean that we don't take that to mean just the 12 people who happened to abandon him, but us as well, that his followers throughout the generations would be united. I think there's a difference between being united today and us all taking direction from a pope or an archbishop or whatever. I think there's a difference between those things. So I'm one of the ones that believes we should have unity of purpose, that we should do what we can to cooperate on a whole variety of fronts, but to also acknowledge that diversity is one of our strengths. And we should encourage that. That kind of expectation that we all agree on every single matter and that's the definition of unity, that's got to go out the window. and think of it more in terms of unity of purpose and agreeing on those things, and accepting the fact that we can do things differently and achieve the same goals. So one way I could think about this would be in terms of what kind of church somebody ought to be looking for. There's a wonderful old bluegrass gospel song, it goes something like, my wife I found a model church and worshipped there today. That song goes on for several verses, and the fellow is describing this church to his wife, and you quickly begin to realize that it's an impossible church to be. No church is exactly like what this fellow is describing to his wife. So, there are challenges in that regard too. But when we look for a church, we should look for one that will comfort us. And I'm not saying one that's comfortable. I'm saying one that can comfort us in our times of need, in our times of sorrow, in our times of grief, in times when our lives are challenging. But we should also find a church that can do that while at the same time encourage us to be seekers, to step out of our comfort zones, to do the things that might be difficult or challenging as individuals and as a community as well. And no church can be all of that all of the time. But ultimately, I think that's our goal, and that's the benefit of having a variety of denominations, ones that we can find comfort in, but that will also challenge us. And that's going to be different for different people. And that's just the way it is. So the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity is about acknowledging Christ's prayer in Gethsemane, the understanding or the thinking that we have that these kind of divisions that we have on earth will not be what we find in heaven, while at the same time seeing the diversity amongst the Christian churches to be a positive thing and an opportunity for a whole variety of people to find various ways to be on their journey of faith in a community that both comforts them and challenges them. God bless. Amen.